start by telling me a little bit about the book, Sadglad, and how you got the idea, how you went about it, why a children's book now?
Yeah, so Sad Glad actually came off the back of a poem that I
Okay.
wrote about 2 or 3 years ago. Um, and then I wrote, I then was like, okay, well, how can I turn this into, have a bit of a through line to it, to have a bit of a story? And that's kind of like where the text and the whole story between Sid and his dog came from. I sort of wrote the poetry part first, and then the story part followed. But it all also, stemmed off the back of my last book that I did, if I'm honest, and the response I got from that, and afterwards, kind of making a conscious decision that I was going to continue doing whatever I could to kind of help people and shine a light on mental health. Um, and then I really thought about sort of the feedback that I was getting from, if I'm honest, and the sort of learnings that I took away from it. And one of the things that I realized was that, a lot of I think the things that people go through in life, and certainly the things that I went through, we perhaps as adults might have been in a better place to deal with them if we were taught about them from a younger age.
Right.
Right. And then that for me was really the big motivation for doing a kids book was, you know, uh, not to necessarily have to teach children all about emotions and highly complex issues surrounding mental health, but at least to make them aware of things from a young age. So when they do get older and they inevitably do have to deal with all the things that life
Yeah.
throws at you,
Yeah.
they at least have some kind of base understanding of what it is and how to kind of navigate it.
Right. Right. And do you think this book would have helped you in your childhood, and how, since you also have gone through depression, and
Yeah.
how do you think that this book would have helped you in your childhood?
Yeah, I think a book like this would have definitely helped me. Um, uh, and that's why I try to actually keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And by including the dog and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
think for me that would have been it would have been a great help, to at least sort of learn about things like this
Right.
in a way, but let me say, in a way where it didn't feel like it was work.
Right. You said you were very, in your, if I'm honest, you said you were a very playful child and used to play pranks and all that. So,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your childhood. How was that?
Yeah, it was as I say in the book, it was a for the most part, there were times of loneliness, being an only child, and I mentioned about the parents being divorced and my father's other family, and how at times when I would spend time with them, I would feel like I was a part of something, but then at other times I would feel like I was alone. So kind of like being playful and having this wild sense of imagination, I guess, was a result of that. Um, but for the most part, I had a good childhood in the sense that I went to boarding school at a young age at like 10, and I think I really enjoyed the fact that I was just like constantly surrounded by kids my age. So it was fun.
Right, right. If you could give one message to the children who want to read your book, what would it be?
That want to read my book.
Yeah.
I would say to any kid that wants to read my book, it's that it's okay to be who you want to be and to feel what you want to feel.
Right, right.
And to also understand that who you are today might not be who you want to be tomorrow. And that's absolutely fine. I mean,
Yeah.
especially for children, right? We should encourage children to be whoever they want to be at
Right.
any point in time, right? Because they don't know who they are.
Right.
And what we need to do as a society is to create a safe, supportive environment that allows kids to fully express themselves in whatever the way they want to do, so they can find that version of themselves who they truly are. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if you know this. I teach acting as well right now. I'm
Yeah.
in the acting
Yeah.
studio I go to. I teach, and like
Yeah.
I've got students who are like 19,
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
They're kids, man. 20 years old, 19 years old. You're a child, and like you know, I keep talking to actors, and I'm like, I'm a big believer that if you're doing anything acting related, and you are playing another character, you have to
Yeah.
first know who you are. You have to know who the person is playing the character in order to play the character. So, you can figure out what's differences between you and them and all that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Right. Right.
But I tell these like 19, 20-year olds, I'm like, let me put a little caveat in that. Know who you are. So I say this to all actors. I'm like, first of all, figure out who you are before you try to figure out who another character is.
Right.
But what I say to the younger ones is figure out who you are today,
Mm.
because at 19 years old, you're going through so many changes. You might be a different person in 6 months, 3 months,
Mm.
different wants, needs,
Mm.
desires,
Mm.
um, uh, you know, important, the importance you give things. And you have to allow yourself to change. Now, and if a 19-year-old's going through those changes, got like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, we've got to allow them to be who they want to be.
Right. Right. And how have you evolved over the years? I mean, from your 1920s, how have you evolved as a person?
Oh, crazy. Like, I mean, it's funny because at that age, you think you know everything, right? And you look back on it and you sort of cringe at some of the things you did and some of the decisions you made, but that's all part of the learning experience. I mean, I'm a big believer that I couldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through the experiences that I did. Um, but I think the big change is that I'm a lot more. I think I'm in tune with who I am and what I value and what's important to me and what's more than anything authentic to me.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think at 19 or 20 years old, you can sometimes get caught in playing um, a persona based on what you think society wants from you or what is expected of you.
Yeah.
Whereas today, I am who I am, and the only person that whose opinion matters to me, or the only person who can tell me how well I'm doing or not doing, is me.
Right.
And I think that's the big difference. And I'll tell you this very quickly. I look back in interviews from when I was that age, and I was sort of starting to go down the
Yeah.
family business route.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think in an interview, my dad said, or I said something like, my dad's goal was to outdo his father, and then I was like, my goal is to outdo mine. And now I look back on that, and I'm like, no, it's not. Who cares? Like at the end of the day, who's going to judge me? The only
Yeah.
person who can judge how well I'm doing is me. And also, what does outdo mean? Like, what metric are we using? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did I achieve what my family has done in the past in business? No.
Yeah.
But did anyone in my family ever write a national bestseller? No. So,
Yeah.
like, at what point do you start comparing? And I think at this point, you realize you don't owe anything to anyone. I don't owe anything to anyone to do better than them. As long as I feel like I'm doing the best that I can and I'm
Right.
happy with what I'm doing, that's all
Right.
that matters. And I think
Right.
that's a big thing that I've learned over the years.
Yeah.
Um, is that
Right. Right. And you are now engaged, and do you want to have children? How many do you want to have?
Oh
Do you
wow.
want to have?
Yeah, no, I do want children. It's funny, my fiance just left to take the dogs for a walk so that we could
Okay.
have some peace doing this
Okay.
interview. But we definitely want kids. I think that right now with the wedding approaching so quickly, our kind of mindset is only focused on that, and then we'll see where we go. But yeah, I definitely want children, and I think I'm at a place where I'm happy enough with where I'm at in life as a person, where I could feel confident about having children, if
Right,
that makes any sense.
right. And can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with your father while growing up and your relationship with your mother while growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I also write a lot about this in If I'm Honest. As I said, like my relationship with my dad was one that was distant at
Mm-hmm,
times. I mean, it
mm-hmm,
started very close and then it got distant. I mean, he had another life and another family, and because of that, I probably didn't see him as much as most kids see their parents growing up. And as a result
mm-hmm,
of that, I think that's probably had an effect on the relationship we have today. It's probably not a very close one. Um, but again, that's a result, I think, of circumstance and the fact that, you know, those years where you really do spend bonding with parents, that a lot of that was missed.
mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to start saying whether that was right or wrong. I'm just going to say that the consequence of that is that today our relationship isn't one where it's like, you know, we're super duper close. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we are. I think we're both very different people with very different opinions and values and
Mm-hmm.
outlooks on life,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like growing up, there were times though where we had a lot of fun together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were probably a lot more similar, or I felt like I was more similar to him when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I don't, but I guess that's just where what happens when you grow up.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so yeah, our relationship I think was always going to be um, governed by the amount of time we could spend together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that was limited,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, on the other hand, obviously, I said I went to boarding school when I was 10, but I'd see her a lot more. And
Mm-hmm.
she was pretty much responsible for my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
That her, and obviously the school where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
But she was the one that was there at all the parent teacher meetings, was the one that came and watched all my sports matches, was the one that would
Mm-hmm.
help out at the school. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So she was a lot more kind of hands on in my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think at times, again, as I mentioned in the book, I had a lot of anger as a child, not knowing
Yeah.
where it stemmed from, not knowing the fact that, you know, this probably came from the fact that of the divorce and finding out that I had this other family and all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
sadly, what happens when a child has anger,
Mm-hmm.
it's taken out on the person that's closest to them. And that
Mm-hmm.
happened to be my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I did probably spend a lot, or no, not probably, I did spend a lot of time angry at her
Yeah.
with what I can see today was misdirected anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, like now, just to kind of like circle back to what you said earlier, I wonder if like there were proper discussions about divorce when it happened, and about, okay, how does it make you feel? How does this, da, da, da. And like maybe if I was talked through it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I would have been able to deal with it in a better way from a young age.
Yeah.
And maybe,
Yeah.
maybe then it wouldn't have stayed with me as long as it did. And
Yeah.
the sorts of resentments that came as a result of it,
Mhm.
for so many years. Who knows?
Right.
It's nice.
Can you tell me a little bit about your fiance? How did you guys meet?
Yeah, she goes to the same acting studio that
Ah.
that I do. And we hadn't met. I think she joined online because we do classes via Zoom as well. So I'd seen her
Mm-hmm.
online. I'd never met her. And then I 2 years ago, I went and shot this film in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really meet. And then when I came back, she happened to be coming into the class in person, and we actually met in person. And it just, I mean, if I was to tell you like what happened, I don't know. It organically happened. You know what I mean? In it
Mm-hmm.
literally, in the most literal sense of the word, organic.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it happened between us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what,
which
yeah. And what does she
yeah,
bring to your life now? I mean, how does she help you
she's
with?
everything to me.
Hmm.
She's, I mean, you hear people say it like, "Oh, I feel like I've known you my whole life." Well, I feel like with her, I've known her lifetimes, like legitimately. Like it's like, yeah, I don't even think putting it in words would do it justice. But I feel like I've been with her, and I know her in multiple lifetimes. It's just like we're in sync, right?
Right.
It literally, I feel like, when they say you found your other half, I
Yeah.
have found that other half, and she completes me, and and offers me things that I didn't even know I wanted, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I finally feel like I don't know, like everything I guess I may have felt growing up in
Mm-hmm.
terms of missing out on feeling a part of something.
Mm-hmm.
I have it all with her.
Mm-hmm. You talk about your compulsive need to belong in your childhood. Has that gone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually, that's one thing that I've really worked on. Is I'm actually okay where I am in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
I was also, before I met Jasmine, I was actually coming to terms with the fact that, you know what, maybe I don't find someone in this lifetime, right? Maybe I do end up alone. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I become
Yeah.
comfortable with myself and my own
Yeah.
company, that I kind of made peace with that.
Yeah.
Then of course, when you don't look is when things end up coming
Happen.
into your
Yeah.
life, and she
Yeah.
came in.
Yeah.
But I think I was able to be so open and ready for her
Mm-hmm.
because I'd found a peace within myself.
Yeah. Yeah.